All right, it's that time of week again. Welcome to the Ultimate Intimacy Podcast with Nick and Amy. And we have one of our favorite guests back, Nate Whitson, back on the podcast to discuss a really important subject today. And we've kind of hit on this in an earlier podcast, but we want to talk about what women are looking for from a good husband, or what does a good husband look like? And we know that a lot of the audience listening is Christian, but what does a good Christian husband look like? And no better person to discuss this with than Nate, because Nate's company is called Get in the Fight. And if you haven't become familiar with his company, you really should. Nate's mission is to help men become better husbands, better fathers, better men in general. And I love the name of your company, Get in the Fight, fighting to become a better man, a better husband, better father, like I said. So, Nate, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you today again.
So great to see you guys and such a privilege. And yeah, I appreciate you so much.
So, obviously, your company, your whole entire company is helping men become better in general. So it goes right in line and along with what we're going to talk about today. But what are the things that you teach men or are teaching men to do to become better?
Yeah, it's such a great question. It's so funny because there's such a oh, what's the word? Like who am I syndrome. I'm
Yeah.
on this journey, right? Like it's like I know you guys feel that probably in your marriage too, where people are like, oh, so you guys have a perfect marriage because you're teaching on it, right? And you're like, no, like we're just learning, we're growing, and we want to be that, right? So my story and this whole mission is really birthed out of not being that guy, but really wanting to be, you know? And so even, thinking of that, like I started to wrestle with this. I never dreamed of actually creating a mission statement or involving other people. This was really like my own wake up call that was like, man, I know I'm not being who I'm supposed to be in those areas that I want to be great at. I want to be a great husband, a great father, a great follower of Christ. And I knew I was slipping that's like nicely saying it. I was way outside of where I was supposed to be. And it was almost this wake up call from God. And that was the message I felt like, not this audible voice, this weird, strange thing, but just genuinely like deep inside, I know it was him saying, you're not in the fight and you need to get back in it. That was like the
I
language
love
of my
that.
heart, of like that was just so true. And so I started like brainstorming, like what would that look like for me to get back in the fight? And in particular, again, as a Christian man, it was like, what does that look like for me as a follower of Jesus? And I came up with lots of words. I started brainstorming all the things because I didn't want to just say like be more like him because that's just like way too general and vague. I
Yeah.
wanted like specifics, and it really goes to our conversation today. I wanted specifics of if I'm acting like or living out these things, I know that I'm on the right path to being more like him. And the things that I came up with, that I felt like God really gave me, was four principles: to be a man of honor, to be a man of discipline, to be a man of strength, and then to be a man of joy. And so those are the four things. And I put different language to it that I could easily remember. Like, I'm the man that does hard right things over the easy wrong things every time.
Yeah.
That's what a man of discipline was. And so I created these ideas that would just help me. Again, I wasn't thinking anybody else would be involved. And then I started talking to other men, and they were like, man, I feel that. And so honor, discipline, strength, and joy are the four that we just like hammer over and over.
I love it. And I love your company's name, Get in the Fight. We often associate fighting as a negative thing, but if you're not fighting for your marriage, if you're not fighting constantly to be a better husband, a better man,
Yep.
you're gonna fall, right? Like the world is so up against marriage in general. It's against men. It's teaching women that they don't need men. And you see that a lot in just relationships and marriages where it's very negative towards men. And I love that you're like I said, you're teaching men to be better men. Um, and it truly is a fight. We have to fight to have that better marriage and be better people.
Yeah, I'll just say to that, like, when you're not fighting, you're in neutral or reverse.
Right.
And that's the like the words that came to mind for me were passive and apathetic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the idea behind it is we don't want to feel anything painful. And so we just put it in neutral or we go backwards and we're just like we just give up. And so there really is no neutral and there is no passive for people that want to be great. If you want to have a great marriage, you can't just like ride it out. It doesn't work,
Yeah.
Right.
right? You can't be a good man and just let everything fall apart, And it's like I always tell guys, like you'll never drift to greatness. And
Yep.
yet we are so pressured to say yes to everything, every good thing, and our schedules are so busy and like we run around like crazy people and wonder why do the main things that we want to be great at seem so far away from us?
Yep.
It's like we've lost focus or we've gotten out of the fight.
Well, and I know we've had other discussions as well. But I also feel like so many men feel like, if I'm not currently where I want to be or I've made mistakes in the past, they feel like they're not worthy to get in the fight. They feel like they can't become the man that they want to be, but that's share with that. That's totally untrue, right? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
why it's so important to get in the fight
Mm.
and become the husband that your wife deserves, or the father that your family deserves. Why it's so important to get in that fight, regardless of the things that mistakes you've made in the past.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't that true, man? The devil really does a good job at beating men down and going, hey, let's focus on what didn't go well. Hey, do you remember 10 years ago? You remember how you screwed up last weekend? Do you know how you still have outbursts of anger? Remember when you skipped your workout again? What he does when he tells you that is he gives you an identity that's not true. He's telling you and convincing you to believe a lie that you're always going to be stuck, that there is no way out, that what you've done will always be with you, that you'll never find your way. And when you listen to lies, you go backwards in every area that matters most. And this is why, again, even for those, that are maybe not Christian, it's like one of the appeals about Christianity, I think, is that there's always hope. And
Right.
hope is so, so critical
Yeah.
for a man and for a woman too. But hope is so critical. If you feel like I'll never become the better husband I want to be, or the better father, or the follower of Christ. If you felt like there was no hope, that's a terrible position to be in. And so we're just trying to inspire men to say, listen, not everything you hear in your head is true. Not everything you read online is true. And what the scriptures teach us is to focus on whatever is true, whatever's right, whatever's noble, and the scriptures teach us to focus on what's true. And then so the truth of life matters, and you're not stuck.
Yeah.
You're not ever in a place until your dying breath. You're never done. And there's always hope for the future. And we just need to get men some momentum. We need to
Yeah.
help them to build small steps to go because you're like, okay, you know what? There is hope. We
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah. So true.
I love that. So give me your four words again.
Honor,
Honor,
discipline,
discipline.
strength, and joy.
So do you care if we take a few minutes to talk about like what each one looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So honor is, at least the way that I've tried to describe it, is a man who has integrity in his private and public life, and
Hmm.
somebody who keeps his commitments to God and others. And so when I pray through that each day, I say, God, help me to be a man of honor. Help me to have integrity in my private and public life. And what that means to me is in my mind is private to you. But a man of integrity is somebody who is consistently like Christ, whether you saw me in person or never saw me at all. It's being able to have consistency in my walk with God, in my motives and in my thoughts and in my heart, right? So whether it's in private or public, that I would have integrity, and I'm just thinking again, like, what makes a good husband? He's somebody that's like dependable in that way, right?
Mhm.
You're
Right.
a man who lacks integrity is somebody who comes home and the wife wonders, has he been thinking of other people? Has he been flirting with the lady at work? Is he faithful to me? Can I count on him? Right? A man of integrity can be counted on. And the other aspect is not only integrity, when it comes to honor, but it's also commitment. Like I made a commitment to my wife before God and a bunch of friends
Yeah.
almost 21 years ago. And do I still hold that commitment that I made to her? Do I hold the commitment that I made to her daddy and her
Yeah.
mom, right? Things like that. And so when I think of being a man of honor, I think of integrity and commitment in particular.
And I love that you mentioned like in all aspects because I think with like social media and a lot of things that like yeah, at work in front of people you're like, yeah, I'm totally honorable. But what am I looking at online when no one's around, right? And
Or
that's
staying online,
or
right?
saying
Yeah.
online or who am I
Yeah.
talking to or commenting with? Like just there's so many more opportunities in today's world to not be honorable that
Mhm.
I love that you brought that up because as having integrity, like it doesn't matter who's around or what your situation is.
Well, and I think it really means that you're the man, you're the same person regardless of what situation you're in. Whether you're
Right.
private and alone, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, you're dependable and there's no fooling any like this is the person you are, right?
And
Consistency.
how and we, with our book and stuff, we've talked about, like great sexual intimacy comes from
Mhm.
strong emotional connection. And when a wife feels safe and she feels like she can 100% trust, like in all areas, emotionally and physically, like that just makes your whole intimate life and marriage just that much better, right?
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I would just say too, again, even like think of the scenario where um, who you are in private could just be with your family even, right? Are you a guy that takes your family to church and you've just been like hammering them all morning and just a total jerk? And then you get there and then you're Mr. Raise Your Hands and Worship guy and
Mm,
everybody thinks you're so great, but you
Yeah.
get home and you're a different monster and your kids don't like
Great
being
point.
around you.
Great
great
point.
point.
Because there
So
are a lot of people like that,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
absolutely. And a lot of people have had that dad who they just thought, yeah, everybody thought he was that guy, but in private, I know who he really is, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to being a good husband or father or person of faith, like who you are in private matters more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed. I think that's
Absolutely.
great.
Great tip.
So yeah, so that to me is just components of honor that we just really try to think through that and pray through that all the time. The next one was discipline though. And discipline, man, is like this is a challenge. Like that I'm the kind of person that does the hard right things over the easy wrong things every time. And it's just like the bar is so high on this one that it's like, am I like that? Like when the alarm goes off and I said that I would get up and go exercise, do I put my feet on the ground or do I hit snooze? Right? Am I disciplined enough with my words? Am I disciplined? Like, do I do hard things, or am I the kind of guy that like shrinks away because I'm that passive, weak guy that never wants to suffer at all, right? I just want always the
Yeah.
perfect temperature, the perfect setting, and if it's anything off of that, man, I'm done.
We were just actually talking about that about 45 minutes ago on just, yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
another subject. Yeah, it is funny you said
Yeah.
that.
It's such a challenge. I'm telling you, that one gets me a lot. And this is where I try to challenge men in particular is the very first place is like if you can win with the alarm, it's such a great way to set your day off, right? There's so many guys that hit snooze, and it's not just a button for the morning, it's how they run their whole life.
Mm.
Because there's a truism out there that like how you are with one thing is how you are with everything, right? And if I can learn to be disciplined and do hard things, have that hard conversation that I just like I'm avoiding it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to ruffle feathers. If I can do that hard thing there, I can get up earlier too, right? Like there's just a connection between the spiritual and the physical,
Mm.
and discipline carries over to every aspect of your life.
Yeah. So what would you say? I know there's going to be a lot, but what would you say would be the top four things that maybe a woman's looking
Mhm.
for her husband to just be a good husband, or what are the and maybe what are the four things that you see a lot of men coming to you struggling with trying to be better?
It's such a loaded one, isn't it? I
Two
mean,
separate questions, but
I know. What's funny is I had talked to my girls about this. So I'm a dad of four girls, three teenagers and one 10-year-old. And I had asked them a question like, what is it? What are you looking for? Like, what do you think makes a good man? And we're dealing with this. I've got one who's, got a serious boyfriend and she's almost 20. She's making her own choices and, about to make these lifelong commitments to somebody else. And
Yeah.
what are you looking for? What makes a good man? Well, I mean, those aspects of honor, discipline, strength, and joy, it would be hard for me to argue that. But I guess if I just stepped outside of that, I think those are all things that would be ideal in a man, that he's a man of integrity. He's a man who keeps his word. One thing I would just say is like, how does he treat his mom? How does a man treat his sisters or other women that are around him? It's just like a good clue. Pay attention to what a man is like in private. Pay attention to if he acts one way to uh, future in-laws, but he's completely different outside of it, right? Like, again, that goes to it surrounds integrity and things like that. But pay attention to what he's like there. Um, we talk about it in our book, right, Amy, of just like this idea that knowing the heart of a woman and pursuing her emotionally, does the guy that you're going to commit your heart to want to understand you? Is he open? Is he emotionally a present person, or is he a really shut off kind of guy? Is he somebody who just like you can't crack him? Because a lot of girls, I think, are going into marriage thinking, I'll change him.
Right.
Yep, which
I'm
isn't gonna happen.
like, good luck, right? You
Yeah.
think he's emotionally disconnected from you when it's going to be as easy as ever in the dating world,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so speaking to that real quick, there's a lot of women that reach out to us to say, my husband doesn't really know how to emotionally connect or be vulnerable or really open up. And even a lot of men will write us and be like, I wasn't taught that. My dad was very shut off. I don't know how to be open
Yeah.
and honest. Like I've had a lot of rejection in my marriage. Like what do you say to a husband that's really struggling with I don't really know how to be vulnerable and talk about certain things. Like tips for that? Because I mean to be all of these things, right? Like we have to be speaking and talking and communicating well with our spouses to have intimacy in our marriage. Like that's just super important to be having these conversations. And it comes easy for us. Well, it didn't. It does now,
Mhm.
but we forget how hard it was and how hard it is for other people.
Oh, it's so
So
hard. Yeah.
So hard. What I would say to the guy, if I'm just going to kind of coach him or just be a friend that cares enough to say it, is that's your job. Like, it doesn't really matter how you feel. That is your job as a man. That's what I would tell him. And I would just say, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you know what's worse is never dealing with that. It's not doing the hard right thing, which is sharing your emotions. Again, like all of the answers to me are that, again, I feel like God gave me those four things, but like they do fall within the realm of honor, discipline, strength, and joy. Like the the questions I might start asking him is, how's it working out not doing it?
Mhm.
How's that going? Right?
How's that
And
going for you?
I love that answer because, nowadays in society we're taught if we don't feel a certain way or we feel a certain way, then that's more important than like what we should be doing, right? That's our feelings. But in reality, screw feelings. Like there's some things you just need to do because you need to do it, regardless of whether you feel uncomfortable or it makes you feel a certain way or whatever. Like there's some things you just got to do because it's the right thing to do.
it's kind of like if you get pulled over and you're like, and you tell the police officer, I didn't know that was the law, he would say it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Ignorance, ignorance of it does not excuse the need to follow it. And I guess I would just say to that guy again, like, you told her daddy that you would do this. You told God that you would cherish her until the day that you die. And this is what it looks like. And yes, it's new. And yes, there's new things you need to learn, and we can help you. But you have to have a willingness to play your role. A man's role in marriage, in a Christian marriage anyways, is that he would play the role of prophet, priest, and king, and he would lead his home. And when you are failing to do that in this area and you have a wife who's just pleading to an outsider for help, it means that you have lost your job and you have to find your way to get back to it, and it will be hard. But let's figure out which hard you want to take on.
Well,
Right.
I think people misinterpret what it means to lead, but so much of leading is also listening and,
100%.
you know, having those
I think that's what
conversations.
there's a lot of confusion with is like, I'm supposed to be a masculine man, I'm the leader. Like that in itself is being
I'm supposed to hold my
vulnerable.
feelings in and be tough. And
Being, you could be masculine and still be vulnerable and open and communicate and like it's just, I
Absolutely.
don't know. I feel like we've kind of like forgotten, like don't realize what that word actually means, right? Like to be masculine in a Christian home, it means to be a leader. It means to turn to
That's
God.
right.
It means to open up. It means to be, yeah, all
That's
those
right.
things you're saying.
That's right. Yeah, and again, like I don't fault a man who was not taught it, that didn't grow up with it.
Right.
You know, depending on our age, the older we are, the more likely our parents did not grow up with affection from our fathers. We didn't
yeah,
grow up watching him do the things that you guys talk about in every weekly podcast and newsletter. We didn't grow up like that. And so I don't fault a guy for it. But what I do tell him is that ignorance of it doesn't matter. And to your point, Nick, the feelings of it don't really matter to me. The reality is, you said that you would take care of this woman. And the reality of it is that you are different than her, and what she needs from you is vulnerability and honesty. And again, not to toot our own horn or to push our own book, but maybe we should, because if you can learn to talk about sex, which might get a guy to say, "Okay, I'll talk about that." We're
yeah.
like, "Cool, let's
That's
do
one thing
it."
I'll talk
Yeah.
about,
Mhm.
right?
It's one thing I'll get vulnerable about because that's what I really want.
Right.
That's the beauty of Let's Talk About Sex, the book that we wrote, is, and you guys were one of the first to ever like say this and help me to understand this. I think for myself, even is if you can talk about that, you will not have a hard time talking about the other vulnerable things about your feelings and emotions, right? So if that's the trigger point for a man to say, well, do you want a great sex life? Yeah. Would you be willing to talk to her about it? Maybe. Cool.
Hmm.
Let's go through that door then, right?
Yeah.
Read
Right.
the book, but use the book as a resource to learn to talk about anything. And you will give your wife, even just by that expression, that emotional connection she needs because you're hearing her and you're listening to her and you're talking with her and she needs all of those things. But you will help, it'll help you to play your role as a man even better.
And for all those listening that maybe haven't listened to our podcast with Nate before, we launched our book a few months ago. It's called Let's Talk About Sex, 20 Things that Husbands and Wives Wish Their Spouse Would Know, but knew but didn't know how to tell you. And I talk to the men and Nate talks to the women about things that we want our spouse to know. But I really focus, like you're saying, on emotional connection because these men come to us and they're like, I want this amazing intimate life. I don't want sex. I want intimacy. I want it to be intimate with my wife, right?
Yeah.
Big, huge difference.
Yeah.
And I try to tell them like it starts with these little things. It's how you treat her, it's how you talk to her, it's how you open up to her, and how do you communicate with her. And like you just said with your four things, like it's being honorable and having integrity. Those kind of things build that intimate connection. So I love that you brought that up because our book is really literally there to help you talk about sex, but how to have an amazing intimate life. That's really what it's all about. So yeah, I just, there's so much to say, but I love that you are just working so hard to help men really realize not even just like how to better be a husband, but how to be more confident and just more happy with yourself, right? Like that's what it really comes down to is like when we're feeling really good about ourselves, we feel connected to God, like everything else in our whole, not just marriage, but our whole life gets better, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just in so many ways, I think what the book does is it just teaches you like you're only a little bit of communication away from changing all of those areas of your life. You
Right.
know,
So
I'm so
true.
glad that you said that. And it is so true because so many people feel like, oh man, to get my marriage from where it's at here to where I want it to be is
Hmm.
like climbing Mount Everest. And it's really not. Like
mhm,
if your marriage isn't where you want it to be to get to where you both want it to be, if you both want it to be that,
Right.
it doesn't take as much effort as you think as far as the communication goes. Now, if there's other things you're dealing with, of course that's different, but as far as just like learning to communicate and connecting that way,
Unless the
changed so
communication is
much.
really hard for you,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. 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 And again, I think this is where the four principles of getting the fight are so like far reaching because again like being a man of discipline is just saying like I'm mentally willing to do hard things, and
Mhm.
just that one starting point alone could help this conversation we're trying to dig our way through for men to go like, yeah, but I'm not good at communicating, I'm not good at opening my heart to her. What he's ultimately saying is like, that's a hard thing.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to do that. And we're saying, yep, I get it. Now go practice it. Now just take it on, right? It won't be perfect. But when you start to say, God, will you help me to be a man of discipline and do hard right things over the easy wrong thing, which is
Mhm.
skipping it, telling her I don't want to talk about it, whatever it is.
Right.
If you can start doing that in one area, you can do it in another, right? And so just challenging men to play the role that they're meant to play. And then teaching women again, like what does it take to be or to find a good man, a good husband? Find a man who's open and willing to admit weaknesses and take them on and fight for those things, right? I know this kind of skips a little bit, but like even just one more thing I was thinking of in this thing, like what should a woman look for? Find a guy who's willing to fight for family time. Like even just that, I think, and Amy, you could answer yes or no to this, but I think even just if you watched your husband say, let's turn the TV off and let's just play a game together. Let's go for a walk. Let's just open our Bible and just read a chapter together. Whatever those little things are, she's gonna watch him be emotionally present. And I think for a woman, Amy, you can answer this, like, doesn't that help her to see, like, man, I love like you're emotionally connected to a guy who's leading like that?
I am just gonna have to say that that is so attractive. Like as women, when we see our husbands like put down their phone and like go spend time with the kids, the
Exactly.
teenagers, the toddlers, whatever your age is, or say, "Hey, let's go on," like Nick all the time, like, "Hey, I want to go on a walk with you with the dogs." Like that's really attractive to me. Like that brings a lot of emotional connection. I don't feel like a super needy wife, like needing to talk or needing all this romance or all this stuff. But when he will pick like, "Hey, I'll go on a walk with the dogs for a half hour with you every night instead of be on my phone," that is so attractive. And I think what husbands need to realize is that we don't expect to have this perfect husband, but
Mhm.
the things that you're talking about, like we just want to see you trying, like
Mhm.
trying to be honorable and be, disciplined and all these things. Like just trying your hardest is really attractive and it means a lot to us. Like it just does. Like I don't know how to
Absolutely.
say that. Like we don't expect you to be perfect. We just want to see that you're trying your hardest. And I think that goes both ways, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, like you had said it earlier, like a lot of guys just don't even know how to lead, or we take this idea of like, well, I don't know how to be a spiritual leader in my home. That is when I hear a ton. I don't know how to do that. I didn't see that. I didn't grow up with it. Maybe you're new to Christianity. It's like, I don't know how to do this. It's as simple as the little things like, hey kids, let's go do this. Hey wife, let's just go for a walk. It's being present, it's being thoughtful, it's being kind, it's being connected, it's being off your phone. That is leading. That is what good leadership looks like. It's getting your kids to church on Sunday without fail. It's, prioritizing family over sports. It's all of those things. We make it out to be, I don't even know, some picture of something that it doesn't have to be. But to like again, what makes a good man, what makes a good husband? Somebody who's emotionally present, not perfect. And I guess I would say this too, as I'm sure we're wrapping this up. These all sound like ideals that are impossible to be like. I bet there are some women going like, yeah, that guy doesn't exist, right? A
Right.
man of perfect honor and perfect discipline and perfect strength and
Right.
yeah. Well, his name was Jesus Christ. He's still alive, but he's off the market, right? He's not somebody you're going.
That's right.
But what I would say to you is we're not looking for perfect.
Right.
And this is where grace and forgiveness are so key. Find a man, if you're a woman who's looking for it, find a man who's not perfect, but a man who wants to be great and is open and honest and vulnerable and all of those kinds of things. But this is where what makes a great marriage is grace,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness,
Yep.
And it goes both
mercy.
ways because we need it too.
We have to have it,
Oh
right?
my
And
goodness.
so
Yeah.
don't look for perfect, but look for somebody who's willing to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love it.
Well, and a lot of women will be sitting here thinking like I want him to do these things, but if I ask for stuff, I'm nagging or I'm always like wanting him to change. Like a lot of the I've heard a lot of quotes I don't know exactly like how to phrase this, but a lot of quotes talking about when your wife is trying to like change you, it's not necessarily that you're not good enough, it's just that she's trying to make you better. And I
Mhm.
think that's key to realizing that like in a good marriage, like we both have our flaws, but when we're trying to make each other better and we're willing to be humble and we're willing to
Yes.
listen, like to the men out there that are like, I'll just never be good enough for her. Like if she's pushing you to be a spiritual leader, like just try a little bit harder. Like you don't have to be perfect at it, right? Like we can just take these baby steps. And I mean, we've seen in our own marriage, like we become better in certain areas, both of us, because yeah, maybe we do kind of push each other a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing for your spouse to want you to just be a little bit better. And it
Mhm.
goes both ways, you know? So
Yeah, and let me just say this because you're so right on, and again, I know we're probably out of time, but I just want to say this. This is so critical to this conversation, I think. When you can trust the intention or the will of your spouse, you can get past those things. Like a
Mhm.
lot of men take, and I'm guilty of this, take a woman's way of trying to push you to be great. Her intention in it is, I want you to be a great leader. I want to help you. But a man takes it as a challenge or like a
right,
disrespect.
Yeah.
The
right.
thing that can stop it from feeling disrespectful is emotional awareness for the guy and for the woman to say, I don't think Sarah, my wife, means it the way that I took that.
Mm,
And as soon as I can stop that, I can stop the crazy spin. I can say, you know what? I know her and she loves me like crazy. I bet the way that she's saying that, that sounds kind of nagging or sounds a little bit like pushy or disrespectful. I know that's not who she is.
yeah,
And that helps me to stop the crazy and go like, I trust who she is. And then I can talk to her about it or just kind of go, you know what, I'll accept that. But I think that that is a huge piece of it for men and women. Do you trust the will and
right,
intention of the person you married? And if so, trust it even when your feelings say, ooh, that felt unloving or
right.
disrespectful.
I love that you brought that up. And for the women, like it's how you do it too. It's the
Yeah,
tone
for
of voice
sure.
you do. It don't be a nagger. Like build him up and in a way that like, hey, I love it when you do this. I mean, this comes back to the way you communicate, right? And said, why do you always do that? Why can't you be more like that? Hey, I love it when you play with our kids. Like that's so attractive to me when you do that. Or I love it that you just get up and want us to all go to church. That I just like that. I look up to that. That's so masculine to me. Like those, like it's the way you do it, women. I think we both
So
have parts to
true.
play in
So
this, you
true.
know?
You can get the exact same point across, but it can be
Yep.
taken completely different ways
Absolutely.
because of how it's presented, right?
Right.
100%. If even in parenting, it's the same. If you gave
Right.
9 positives to every corrective negative, and there's times for being like, hey, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But if throughout the day you were like saying to your spouse or saying to your kids exactly what you said there, Amy, like, man, that just, I so love it when,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for, right? If you approach
Right.
it like that, especially for a guy,
Yeah.
most guys want nothing else than for his wife to go, you're everything I dream of. Like, I
Yeah.
love
Right.
you. I respect you. I'm so grateful you're my man. Like he just wants to feel that puffed up pride of, man, it's working,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
All he needs.
Right. Love it.
So true.
Treat him like a queen. King, he'll treat you like a queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for all the husbands out there listening, take these into consideration. He just gave you four great points of how you can be a better husband. Amy
Mm-hmm.
and I have talked about this on another podcast episode as to the poll results as to what women look for in a good
Or what's
husband.
yeah, kind of what they expect. It kind of goes hand in hand with that,
And
yeah.
I think you'll find that what we're talking about is, pretty much right in line. So
Nate, I
Mhm.
love what you're doing to help men. Like
Thank
your mission is amazing. You're changing lives. Where can people find you, reach out to you if they're just like, I want to be that man and I need some help, you know?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, if you go to getinthefight.club, getinthefight.club, you can, there's all kinds of free things. Like just start with free stuff, right? Like I do a newsletter that comes out Mondays and Thursdays twice a week, and it's just little nuggets, little things like this just to kind of help us to stay on the course. And the podcast, you can find all of that kind of stuff at getinthefight.club. And even joining, like we have a private group that we call our Fight Club, and there's men from around the world that it's free to join. We do Bible study each morning, like a little 10 or 15 minute read through the Bible in a year together. It's like a Facebook group, but way better because it's just Christian men who join and want to be better husbands, fathers, and followers. Again, all free stuff, but getinthefight.club is the best place. Or I'm active on X every day, Nate_Whitson_. If you're on X, that's a good place to find me too.
Awesome. Love it. And you heard about our book. If you haven't looked at it, you haven't gotten it yet, we're getting 5-star reviews across the board. Yeah. People are loving it. It's being very helpful. So if talking about sex in your marriage is tricky, go grab our new book. It's in our shop. And yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate you all so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being on with us. And until next time, we hope all of you find ultimate intimacy in your relationship.